आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and time now for your favorite section, the nation's sharpest opinion. And it is my view and the view of most informed observers that the tide has started to turn against Trump, and it is the hard position, the uncompromising position of our nation, led by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that is causing the global tide to turn against Donald Trump. Even the American media is now beginning to say, with the kind of position that Narendra Modi has taken, Trump is going to have to back off. And the great part about the communication of the Indian government is that it's measured, it's statesmanlike, but it is also unflinchingly clear. This comment, which I am about to play next, of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, makes his position clear. He says it is my national interest, our farmers, our dairy producers, our agriculture, our national interest on which I am not going to compromise. It's a clear, unequivocal position, a statement of certainty and a statement of intent from the Indian Prime Minister. Hear this first.
भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं। मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए, मेरे देश के मछुआरों के लिए, मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है।
What Narendra Modi is saying essentially, that we have prepared for this, we are ready to pay the price, that we will be able to ride this out, and that he doesn't care about the cost that it has on him personally. That's what leadership is about. But Narendra Modi isn't just saying things. He's also sent National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. We had the pictures of Ajit Doval meeting Vladimir Putin. And at the end of that meeting, Ajit Doval made a very interesting announcement. And he was there, he spoke to all the Russians. At the end of that meeting, he announced that Vladimir Putin is going to be visiting India. A very important statement and very important announcement globally, that Putin is going to be traveling to India, which is a big strategic statement by Russia towards India as well. Hear this.
You have very rightly mentioned, Excellency, that we have got a very special relationship, a long relationship, and we highly value our strategic partnership. We have had high-level engagements, and these relationships, these high-level engagements have contributed very substantially. We are very excited and delighted to learn about the visit of His Excellency the President of Russia, President Putin, to India. I think that the dates are almost finalized now.
And that made global headlines, that Putin is going to be traveling in. Here, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to state that it is not just Putin traveling to India which is important. Even the Chinese are seeing an opportunity, and the Chinese see India as leading the way in countering America. In a way, even the Chinese have not been able to. We had a statement from the spokesperson of the Chinese embassy saying India's sovereignty is non-negotiable and India's foreign policy choices cannot be manipulated by other countries, no matter how significant their own ties with India are. I find this statement very important because the Chinese are basically standing behind India. Nikki Haley, who's a Republican, and at what point of time was challenging Trump for the presidential candidacy, said that China, an adversary, and the number one buyer of Russian and Iranian oil, got a 90-day tariff pause. Don't give China a pass and burn a relationship with a strong ally like India. So reasonable politicians in America, even ex-allies of Donald Trump, are saying you are making a mistake with India. When the Brazilian president, Lula da Silva, was asked whether he will meet Donald Trump, he said, I will not call Trump because he does not want to talk. And I don't know if I have this comment with me. He said, I would rather call Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping, which talks about India's stature at a global level. Hear this, please.
Eu não vou ligar para o tampa comercial, não, porque eu não quero falar. Mas pode ficar certo, Marina. Vou ligar para ele, vou ligar para o Xi Jinping, vou ligar para o primeiro-ministro Modi, vou ligar. Eu não vou ligar para o Putin, porque o Putin não está podendo viajar. Mas vou ligar para muitos presidentes. Tocaram, vem.
So viewers, the point I'm trying to make is, across the world, people are looking at the way Narendra Modi is leading this very calm and statesman-like tariff battle with America and seeing in India's stance something that they can emulate. But viewers, in America also, the Americans are beginning to get worried about Donald Trump. According to a research done by the Budget Lab at Yale University, the average American household will spend at least $2,000 more this year because of Trump's tariff tyranny. As per estimates from Morgan & Stanley, Trump's 50% tariffs will directly impact 67% of India's exports to the US. Now, who's going to pay for that? The American household, the American taxpayer, already burdened, already under pressure with the $37 trillion debt that his economy has, is going to be paying for all this nonsense that American President Donald Trump is unfortunately doing. The tariffs are basically import taxes which are paid by US importers. When Trump imposes tariffs, ladies and gentlemen, the higher prices will naturally, basic economics, get passed on to the consumers, which means that everything that America does not produce domestically, whether it's coffee, tea, or even bananas, are going to become more expensive. And since working and middle-class Americans spend a larger share of their income on goods like food, housing, electronics, they are the ones who are going to be maximum affected. So basically, it is Americans who are going to pay. And I have a visual which also tells you, viewers, that frankly, nobody cares much for American bullying. You know, the United Arab Emirates president, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, he traveled to Russia for his second visit to the country in less than a year. This is very important because according to Trump, any country directly or indirectly buying oil from Russia will face sanctions. Now, the UAE imports from Russia crude oil, ladies and gentlemen, and it did so in 2023. And in June 2025, Saudi Arabia emerged as the top buyer for Russian seaborne fuel oil and vacuum gas oil. This meeting of the UAE president indicates that countries like the UAE will continue to do business with Russia, regardless of all these threats that America is putting towards India or towards China or towards Russia directly. So if we are able to wear this out, if we are able to just stare America back, we are sure to succeed, ladies and gentlemen. And all these meetings, these are not acts of defiance. If Narendra Modi, if Doval is in China, if Narendra Modi has gone to Brazil, if the UAE president is in Moscow, these are not heresies. This is not sacrilege. This is how the world works. But the if Narendra Modi is being honored by the Brazilian president there, this is not a wrong relationship. This is how the world works. Problem is, with the limited experience that Donald Trump has, he is unwilling to accept the reality of a multipolar world where neither he nor America are as powerful as they think they are. Importantly, for viewers in India, I would like to say, what does the world say about Narendra Modi and the government of India today? Even Reuters, which I often find quite critical, says, India's Modi vows no compromise on foreign interests amidst Trump's tariff salvo. This is just a glimpse of the global media. MSNBC says what Trump doesn't but should understand about his own trade deals. Headlines like this give me a clear sense that given the strength and conviction with which India is staring Trump back, people within America and the rest of the world are seeing this as a silver lining, an opportunity. That if a large country like India, which has a great future, is able to stare America back, it opens the door for free determining of economic and foreign policy by countries around the entire world, whether in Asia, large parts of the global south, South America, Australasia, or Africa. And that is India's eventual destiny. This is not a Trump versus Modi battle, therefore. It is a battle between Trump's arrogance and the patience and relentless patience of the rest of the world. Let's debate.
Within 24 hours of US President Donald Trump's fresh tariff announcement on India, raising it to a net rate of 50%, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has broken his silence and has drawn the line.
हमारे लिए अपने किसानों का हित सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है। भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं। मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए, मेरे देश के मछुआरों के लिए, मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है।
The Prime Minister's official statement came after India had already made its position clear on the unilateral tariffs that US has imposed on India, calling them unfair, unjustified and unreasonable just minutes after the announcement was made last evening. US cited India's direct and indirect oil imports from Russia as the major reason of doubling down with an additional 25% tariff from the initial 25% announced earlier. However, when confronted with the reality of how US tariffs are skewed against India, while other nations like China are getting a free pass, Trump was once again at a loss of words.
Indian officials have said that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil.
It's okay.
Like China, for instance, buys more.
Yeah.
Why are you singling India out for these additional sanctions?
It's only been 8 hours, so let's see what happens over the next.
Sanctions.
You're going to see a lot more.
So this is a taste of
You're going to see a lot more. You're going to see so much secondary sanctions. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
However, it wasn't as easy for the White House trade advisor to brush away the China question. When confronted, Peter Navarro said that the US had already put a 50% tariff on China and they did not want to a point where it hurts the Americans more. This is not the first time Trump has been stumped by his own hypocrisy on tariffs.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
With Trump cognizant of the damage caused to the economy by its own tariffs, and PM Modi declaring that he is ready to pay a heavy price for India's national interest, the MAGA-MEGA trade war enters its next chapter.
You're going to see a lot more. You're going to see so much secondary sanctions.
My first guest tonight is attorney Ravi Batra. He's a renowned American attorney. He's pro-MAGA, pro-Trump. And he's the chair of the National Advisory Council on South Asian Affairs. So he's firmly with the Trump camp. Ravi, it's good to have you this evening again. It's been a long time. Now, the question Trump cannot answer. This is not about Russian oil, quite clearly. Otherwise, if it was about buying Russian oil, then there should have been, sanctions on China. But there are no such sanctions on China, though they buy a lot, even more Russian oil than India does. So why is it because the Americans are weaker with China, or is it simply because if you impose it on a matter of principle with China, then Americans will be hurt more, given that China exports more to you?
First, let me just say that I am pro-America. And second, I am very, very strong in being supportive of India-U.S. relationship becoming equal to the one we have, a special one with the United Kingdom. And that is, I've spent over 50 years of my life working to that effort through various administrations. What you have here, Arnab, first of all, India is a sovereign nation and has every right every sovereign has, the same right that we have as a sovereign nation. And sometimes that means doing the right thing in a difficult way, doing the right thing in an easy way. This one's a complicated one. These are cascading causes that are interplaying and hence not so easy to comprehend. So I want to go to some basics. One, Dr. Ambedkar wrote India's constitution modeled largely on American constitution. So the nation of India is really another America in Asia. I strongly
object to that. Please, I think that you are drawing large inferences which are inaccurate. He was certainly inspired by British law, but that does not mean that India is inspired by the American effort at all. In fact, absolutely and totally to the contrary. I can tell you that it is Indian experiences which have shaped early American leaders, and I can prove it to you, but that's not the point here tonight.
But the difference between us, Arnab, is that you want to give a report card on today's event, which is that yesterday tariffs were announced, which are punitive to India, which I'm not in favor of. But so we can either join together and say, that's bad, 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 or as I wish, we need to find ways and means to get beyond this, back to where we ought to be, and that is this. If Russia can be friends with China and India at the same time, why can't America be friends with India and China and Russia at the same time? So you have to start from larger context. Now, in 2016, Prime Minister Modi brought the entire Congress to its feet in applause when he said that the ties between India and the United States are indivisible. In 2017, a rare honor given to India and to Prime Minister Modi by President Trump 45, in Howdy Modi, where in American soil, a foreign leader, introduced the American president to Americans in Texas, in Houston, Texas. So the love affair between America and India is real, and it ought not be diluted with the dust-up of yesterday's events. In fact, you should see this as connecting the dot to Prime Minister Modi's comments in Samarkand in September of 2022, when he attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting and said, this is not an era for war, which was a direct rebuke for President Putin.
Again, I go back to the point here. See, I'll go back to the substantial point, and I'm all for niceties, but niceties don't determine, the reality. The point is this, see, what are Indians asking tonight, Ravi? Let's be clear about it, right? What Indians are saying is, where is the parity in this, right? You are saying suddenly to a country who you consider your strategic partner, that we are going to punish you unilaterally, we will make numerous statements against you. But you're not explaining why you buy uranium, hexafluoride, palladium, and other minerals and engage in billions of dollars of trade with the Russians, while trying to sound all high and mighty about why Indians are doing trade with the Russians. Question one. And the second question tonight, just to keep it extremely pointed, that why don't you apply the same rule to the Chinese? Are you scared?
No. So it's not about scared. It's about doing things right. The number one topic on President Trump's agenda item beyond trade is ceasefire in Ukraine. Because
if you apply sanctions on the Chinese, then that may have more effect than increasing the trade tariff with India.
So this is a crisis, and this crisis empowers India and Prime Minister Modi to really say to President Putin, come on, guys, we got to make a deal here. We got to stop the war in Ukraine. I said it to you in 2022. President Trump has been saying it while he was running for election, while being prosecuted and persecuted domestically by the then Biden administration. Let's not even go to the Obama administration with the Russia hoax that was perpetrated. So we have a lot of internal politics we're dealing with, but externally, this crisis is really almost a call to say to India, to Prime Minister Modi, please help us together.
Ravi, I wish I could agree with you, but I need to come to you again. You see, the point is that I think you're spoiling it with the Indians. I'll tell you why. Why would you make a potential trade agreement with India hostage to your problems with Russia? These are two unrelated things. You're an attorney. You understand very well the importance not of mixing two unrelated things. We came to you first. We came to you. We were one of the first countries in the new Trump administration of opening up a trade dialogue with you. But without asking us, you yanked our trade dialogue out of a drawer somewhere, and you said we are going to use it as a lever against you to blackmail Russia. Now, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Okay.
Ravi, it's not
I can
fair.
understand that your perspective, that it's not fair, but I wanted to say this to you. Making an agreement, a trade agreement or any other agreement, is like making love. The couple, it's unique to that couple, how they behave with each other behind closed doors. So neither you or I are behind those closed doors when these negotiations took place. You don't know if something went astray or didn't go astray, but the fact remains, and that's why we have to come to larger pillars, the structural strength of U.S.-India relations, and that is to say this. Prime Minister Modi was ahead of President Trump in 2022 saying this war should end. It shouldn't even have started. The truth is the war shouldn't have started. Why did it start? Because
India didn't start the war.
During President Biden,
India didn't start the war. India can't be used as a linchpin to end it.
Ignored by Tony Blinken.
But India can't be used as a pivot or a linchpin to end a war it neither started nor is responsible for ending.
Okay, so let me give you the punchline. The punchline is this 50% tariff will disappear. A proper result will be achieved. President Trump's desire for a ceasefire will occur. In fact, Prime Minister Modi was ahead of President Trump's request that the ceasefire occur. So they are natural partners in ending the war. And I want to remind you something. This particular war that's in Ukraine, it's a very old war. It's not 2014 Crimea taking, or 2022, when actually there was a special military operation to invade Ukraine.
Ravi, when Trump was fighting the elections, sorry to interrupt again.
You remember Lord Tennyson, the charge of the Light Brigade? That was about Crimea. That's how long this has been festering. Nation leaders need to solve problems with final solutions, not these intermittent band-aids. Political expediency kicks the problem down the road.
Okay, last question to you. These are individual compulsions of Donald Trump. He said he'll finish this in 10 days. He didn't say, I'm going to finish it in 10 days provided India stops buying Russian oil.
Again, as I said to you, the dating game or the making love game, you have to know each other's love language, okay? And so the couple that knows the love language of their partner ends up having lots of babies. Those that don't.
I would politely, completely disagree with your analogy out there, but that is your personal matter. But Ravi, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. That's Ravi Batra from New York. Ladies and gentlemen, the well-known Ajay Bagga, great and popular macro voice, increasingly high on the popularity index for the way he puts India's position, along with Charles Kupchan, very critical of Trump, professor at Georgetown, the famous Georgetown University in DC, Pastor Mark Burns, inflammable as always, but a fiery debater, spiritual advisor to President Trump, St. Alexander Shajan, he's a grassroots Republican strategist, hardcore Trump supporter, And we have Jennifer Zeng, member of the International Press Association, CCP and China Affairs. She's joining us from Washington, D.C. I'm not going to classify her position tonight. So where do we stand here today? Now, Pastor, I start with you. You see, we have a very tough Prime Minister. He's given a clear statement today. He says, see, you can do what you want. And his exact words are, I'm willing to pay any price, personally and in any way, but for me only three things matter. India, India, India. Indian farmers, Indian dairy producers, and the people of India, Indian fishermen. So this has failed, Pastor. The pressure tactic has failed. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, I don't think that it's most definitely too early to suggest that that has failed. The reality is this, and again, India is a growing power, and you guys are growing, but the Prime Minister is risking his legacy and the future of his election, because the reality is India cannot fight a long-term or survive a long-term trade war with the United States of America. The reality is we're 7 times larger in your economy than India is. India still depends heavily on access to our markets. And so for a long term, India just simply cannot survive. You have, Mr. Rahul Gandhi and others who are nipping at the butt. And so
sorry, but
you can laugh, but my point is the Prime Minister, how smart and wise that he may be, you have folks who are nipping at the butt and they're niching, at the opportunity, because if the economy of India continues to fail, and it will, in a long-term trade war with America. But let me also say this. You're speaking about why allowing China to buy oil and then punishing India, who's supposed to be our friends. Let's just be clear. China is a dictator communist country. They align with Russia. You don't treat your adversaries the same as you treat your allies. There's a difference. China aligns with Russia. They are adversaries to America. And so India, on the other hand, is a strategic partner. We are supposed to be hand in hand together. One, you punish. China, you punish. India should know better. The president's desire is to end the war in Ukraine. Why would we, as friends, allow India to fund a warlord dictator war in Russia by buying cheap Russian oil, while at the same time gain access to the massive U.S. markets that India right now so heavily depends on for the economy? And so it is not fair. You can't have both. You're literally playing what we would call on the fence, and you can't do that. Either we are friends or we're not. The president, and not only that, India risks not just alienating the United States of America, but you also risk alienating your position on a global stage with the European nations who are also punishing Russia for viciously attacking Ukraine. So you're not just fighting the United States of America in this trade war. You're risking losing your national position, your global, position on the world stage, because other European nations are joining in these very same sanctions against Russia.
Have you finished? Pastor? Are you going to expend all your armory right in the first answer tonight? Because you see,
no,
I can, now listen, Pastor. I will only say 2 things to you. I'll pass it on after that. First of all, be very clear about one thing. Don't talk like that. Don't say, who are you? Who are you? I would say, who are you? 1 minute. When you keep saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, I would turn around to you and say, Pastor, you Americans, who are you to even say anything to us? You have an exaggerated sense of self-importance. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have a bloated...
Well, I agree.
1 minute, allow me now. Now listen to me when I'm giving it back hard, right? Yeah, I haven't even pulled out my uppercut. Now the question is here today, Pastor. When you say this, you got to understand how small you actually are, how insignificant you are, because you are I'll tell you why. Because as far as we are concerned, if we have exports of about $800 billion or so with you, this impacts 5% of that. 5%. You do not impact our GDP more than 0.2%. In terms of tariffs, if you impose 50% to 100%, you will at the most impact $40 billion. That is very small for a country of India's size. That's 5% of our exports to you. We can live with that. So you are not important, point number one. Okay? Please be absolutely and clinically clear about it. It does not affect us. Clear? Now I repeat that question to you. Well, you obviously don't understand economics, so you're laughing there. Or you don't have an answer to me, probably. You don't have an answer to me. That's more likely, the more likely. Now, point is, when he was asked, why do you import uranium hexafluoride from Russia? Trump looked like a thief who'd been caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He said, I'm not going to deny it. He could have denied it, but he did not, because a brave reporter asked him that you're such a hypocrite. You are buying uranium hexafluoride for your nuclear plants from a country that gives it to you, which is Russia. And Trump tried to look away. He should have given a clear answer there. He did not. Just the way you can't answer any of my questions here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can't. Why do you buy uranium hexafluoride and palladium from Russia? I'll play the soundbite, ladies and gentlemen. Just listen to this one, okay? Just look at how hesitant he looks. Just look at his body language out there. Let's play it. Let's play it with that window. Let's play it.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that. Yeah, please.
Ajay, I don't know anything about it. I'll have to check on that. Next question, please.
Well, let me just say this.
Ajay, you heard that? Ajay Bagga from Mumbai.
Yeah, I'm going to answer.
Arnab, overall, if you see the opening remarks from the pastor, unfortunately, in their quest to make America great again, they're making America alone. This is not the way that you treat a friend, a friendly nation, a democratic nation. You are not trying to build up friends. You want vassals.
India should not be playing both sides.
You have done
India is playing both sides.
I was quiet while you were talking. Listen to me. Listen to me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Europe was charging you 1.5% tariffs. You made it 0% tariff, and the president is saying, I've got the most beautiful deal in the world. What was the big deal in reducing 1.5 to 0? Korea, which had a free trade agreement, you went and put 25% tariffs on them. Now you have agreed at 15%. They were total charging you 0.79%. You took it to 0, and you're showing it, we have vanquished the Koreans. The Japanese had a total tariff weighted average of under 2%. You've taken it to 0%. India, if you take the weighted average tariff, we are at 4.6%. It is no big deal for us to bring it down to 0%. What we don't want, what you had to do when you took on the Chinese in 2018-19, and they stopped buying your farm produce, every year you had to put extra $30 billion of subsidies to your farmers. Again, that situation is reached because guess what? The Chinese bought a lot of Brazilian soya, Brazilian corn in January, in the January harvest. This harvest in the US is not getting picked up. The Europeans are not buying because they need a carbon certificate, which the Canadians are giving. So Canadian corn and soya is going to Europe. American is not going. You will have to subsidize, and you will dump it all in these complying nations. India has to protect its farmers. It has to protect its small dairy farmers, its fishery exports. Yep. That is what a fishery industry. That is the only thing India has put in. Second, a friend does not hyphenate you with a rogue nation, a failed nation, a terror sponsor where you had killed Osama bin Laden. 30 times President Trump has said, I called up both the countries and I held up the specter of taking away their trade, and they agreed to a ceasefire. On the floor of the parliament, our prime minister has said, I did not speak to any leader of the world. After that, Trump has not got back, but 30 times he brought this up, which the opposition caught.
I think Ajay, we just have these visuals. Just to interrupt for a moment, Ajay, because I got these visuals here, and Tatiana is joining us from Moscow. That is India's national security advisor, the amazing, incredible, wise, and sophisticated Ajay Doval, meeting Vladimir Putin in his Kremlin office some time back. And at the same time, an announcement made that Vladimir Putin is traveling to India this month. In a couple of weeks, he will be in New Delhi. Now, that's very significant, isn't it, Tatiana, in the context of what's going on between India and the US?
And I really want to respond to the...
sure, I'll let you. But Tatiana.
But I really want to respond to regards to...
let's get Tatiana from Moscow, please. Thank you. Tatiana, Tatiana, the pastor is unnerved tonight.
Let me say this though.
Because pastor, see, what does Ajay Bagga represent? Ajay Bagga represents a solid, unflappable, reasonable Indian who you can't push.
That you cannot equate buying Russian oil that handles 35% of the total Russian GDP. That is the backbone of Russian economy, to buying rare minerals that we cannot find nowhere else.
Listen, I'll tell you only one thing, pastor. I'll tell you only one thing, pastor. Pastor, listen to me. I'll only say one thing to you, pastor. You hear me now tonight. I'm going to say something to you you're not going to like. You're not going to enjoy what I say. You're not going to enjoy what I say. But I will have to say this to you tonight because you keep crossing the line. See,
at a cheap price.
1 minute, pastor. We will buy from wherever we want to, at whatever price we want to, at whatever price we can afford. My sympathy is with you, but you are not going to decide anything for anyone. Now listen here. Okay, pastor, thank you. Thank you for interrupting. But my point here tonight is always remember every day, pastor. You're a spiritual guy. I'll tell you something you relate to. Every morning when you wake up, and every night when you go to sleep, pastor, remind yourself that you are a citizen of a 200-year-old country. A new country called USA. And India is a 10,000, China, 10,000-year-old civilizations. Talk with respect. Talk with respect, pastor. As a citizen of a 200-year-old country, you're speaking to a 10,000-year-old civilization. Talk with respect. Talk with respect, or don't talk at all. And now, please listen here. Don't try all these heresies with me. Now listen to Tatiana. Tatiana, what's the significance of today's meeting at the Kremlin and Putin coming to India soon?
Oh, look, Arnab, I think this is a very, very significant meeting. But also, let's just remember that, the pastor can talk a very, very loud conversation, but we do understand that India still has 21 days to respond to the tariffs, which brings us to our previous conversation over the fact that Donald Trump is playing hardball, but this is essentially a bluff to begin with. He is waiting for India to respond. In the meantime, the announcement of the president's visit and even the meeting, the visuals that you're showing today are just what they're supposed to be. This is a powerful statement by two powerful nations saying that, look, you cannot hardball countries like India, you cannot hardball countries like Russia. This is just not the way you deal with big nations. You can bully Europeans, but not big nations and powerful nations that have the right absolutely to their own national interests. And they will pursue them because this is, it is not an America-centered world anymore. And you just have to learn to live in this world, Pastor. You and Donald Trump, both.
Well,
and most importantly, I want to go to Jennifer. Jennifer, please, pastor, let the others also come into this. Jennifer Zeng has been waiting. Jennifer, your thoughts on this, please. I don't know your positions, your thoughts on what's going on between India and the US, and of course the other ramifications of it. Jennifer Zeng, please. Thank you. Sir, please don't monopolize the conversation, pastor, because it's been half an hour. We need to let the others come in. Thank you very much. Jennifer Zeng, please. Jennifer.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I think, of course, every country has the sovereignty to decide what they want to do and from which country they want to buy their oil or other goods. But I think the reality of the world now is we need to recognize the fact that Donald Trump has changed and is changing the trade order of this world, which has been in place for decades since World War II. But he has been changing all of this, and we are now facing a new reality, and he is negotiating deals with countries one by one. And of course, India can decide whatever India wants to do, but from the point of American president, he has, whatever the people has given him the ability or the power to decide what to do with the tariffs with each nation. What I say is India has been, I think, stick to its non-aligned policy with a country. India is trying to be friends with different countries and all the time and has been doing very well. But the reality now is, I think, the CCP is or the final showdown between America or the free world and the communist China is unavoidable, is inevitable. It will happen one way or the other, sooner or later.
It will happen.
So, it will happen. And the biggest threat to India is the CCP, not America. So from my understanding, of course, I hope Donald Trump can impose maybe 200, 500% tariff on China right now. But I only hope after he's dealing with other countries and making deals with other countries.
But Jennifer, India's may I come in for a moment? See, I'll give you the perspective from India. If India has separated its geopolitical issues with China away from its economic issues with China. We can work with you economically. We will continue to be adversaries at a strategic, military, and foreign policy level, and that is possible today. Breaking news right now, we've just been told that there has been a phone call between Brazil's President Lula, who has just had a long conversation with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This has just been happening. Now, Mr. Shahjan, right, you're joining us from Atlanta, and Charles Kupchan. So things are moving fast. Brazil connecting India. Putin saying, Alexander, putting it in perspective, Putin saying, after his meeting with India's National Security Advisor, I'm going to be flying down to Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is saying, I'm going to be meeting Xi Jinping, I'm going for SCO in China, then I'm going to Japan. Brazil saying, we stand with India, right? And the UAE president going down and meeting Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Things are moving very fast, so other countries are also coming together, and they're significant and strong economies in their own right. Alexander, what do you think?
Well, I'm very upset, and I'm sad that India has failed to realize the importance of understanding President Trump's negotiation tactics as a decent businessman on this Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, it's a very sad situation. I was just listening. I was very quiet. I was listening. Everything Arnab was saying, and you were saying about the 200-year civilization and 10,000. Whether it is 200-year or 10,000-year civilization where China has or Russia has, what are the contributions of China to the entire world, for the rest of the world? When you sugarcoat China for, you said this, yes, the geopolitical issues with China, you are going to put that away. We are good to go with the economic affairs. But do not forget what China has done to India during the recent war with Pakistan. China has provided all the military and intelligence support to Pakistan during the recent conflict. That includes supplying all...
And what did you do? Have you forgotten? What did you do? What did you do? You've forgotten. You joined up with Osama's friends. Do you want me to remind you about that? And by the way, let me tell you, we're good enough to fight the Chinese on our own militarily. We've done it a number of times. We're going to deal with it. We don't trust you. We don't trust you anymore. You're not friends. We don't trust you anymore. You're not being reasonable. We'll look out for ourselves. And it doesn't matter if you feel sad. And it's the truth. You are a 200-year-old country and we are a 10,000-year-old civilization. That's the reality. Deal with it.
You are doing the same thing. When you call out hypocrisy, you are doing the same thing. Let's be very nice here, okay? I'm being very nice, but let's talk economics here. Don't talk down to us. Don't talk down to India. Don't talk down to India. I'm not going to yield it to you. I told you the other day, I am very proud of my Indian heritage, okay? And I still love that nation. I'm not here to fight with you to find out what India is big or US is big or US is going to bow down. No, I'm talking about China. India's most threatful nation, that is neighbor. Listen, we have lived with this threat for a long time and we know how to deal with it. We have dealt with it. You are dealing with a small country like Canada. We're dealing with China for a long time. We don't need, 1 minute, just with respect, sir. Both you and Pastor must understand. Sir, please understand. Sir, please understand one thing. Please understand. See, you must understand. We, India and China have a long border, okay? And there are military problems. We have an unresolved border issues. But two big nations, two big militaries, two big economies, we are dealing with it. We don't do this social media wars in between India and China. And we know China's position, but we also engage with them. Our national security advisor spoke to Wang Yi towards the end of Operation Sindoor. We don't do diplomacy on Truth Social. That's the difference between India and America. You have problems with China, we do. But I want to tell you one thing. Look at the economics of it, Alexander. Today, our dairy market is 13 lakh crores. It's growing at 15% CAGR every year. You are saying, give up on your dairy economy, which produces 25% of the world's milk. You're saying, hand it over to America. We are saying, no, we won't give it. Narendra Modi is saying, no. Charles, what did Trump expect? For Narendra Modi to roll over and say, please, take over Indian dairy, take over Indian agriculture. We'll stop buying Russian trade, we'll do what you want. He's not going to say that. Charles, where is this headed? Hold on. Charles, where is this headed now? This is getting so facile. Charles, please.
Could you hold off for a second? You've had plenty of time to speak. I broadly agree, Arnab, with the position that you've presented. These tariffs are a mistake. We are seeing Modi, in my mind, do the right thing, which is to push back against a bully. We are seeing India and Brazil and China and perhaps Russia band together to try to resist an American president who is doing things that don't make any sense. The one area where I would disagree with your opening statement is that I don't think we're yet at an inflection point where Trump is going to pull back. In fact, here in the United States, in Washington, D.C., a day by day, things get worse. Trump fires somebody, a nonpartisan analyst, who puts out job numbers he doesn't like. Then they fire a cybersecurity specialist who's teaching at West Point because she worked for Biden, even though she also worked for Republicans. I think things are going to get worse before they get better. Trump is going to double down on these tariffs, not pull back. But I do see two potential lights at the end of the tunnel. One is prices are going to start going up very quickly now that all of these tariffs are in place. And that suggests a public backlash against Trump. And number two, let's see what happens when Trump meets Putin, which is supposed to happen perhaps next week. If we can get an end to the war in Ukraine, and I'm not saying we can, but at least the conversation is starting, then maybe we can see them pull back on these tariffs, these penalty tariffs against India, and lower the tariff levels overall. But we're right now, I think, in a very bad place where Trump thinks he's getting stronger, he's winning. We're not yet at that tipping point that you referred to.
I completely agree with you. Someone got upset there, Tatiana, when I said Tatiana, that India and China are 10,000-year-old civilizations and America is a 200-year-old country. I was only stating a fact, Tatiana. I was only stating a fact.
Completely.
This is a reality.
Agreed.
Why does it hurt?
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm very good with my history. I did read a lot of history books, and not just on the history of Russia, not just on the history of India, but I'm a history geek. But I have to agree with the previous speaker. We need to learn to pay less attention to the chaos that Donald Trump creates around himself to be able to remain sane in this world, because he has been doing this controlled chaos thing for a long time and he's good at it to a point. But this whole situation, the fact that at the same time, remember the last time I was on this debate, I told you that it wasn't just Mr. Doval who was in Moscow, it was also Mr. Witkoff. And that meeting, according to Trump, was very, very effective and was very, very fruitful. At the same time, he's threatening these ultimatums. At the very same time, this chaos is what he thrives on. So to be able to remain sane and to get the power back, we need to learn to, again, not take what he says at face value. And I do believe also that the economic backlash from these tariffs, if, how many times he's threatened one thing, then he gives you this long waiting period. Oh, look, let's negotiate. Now India has 21 days to respond, and then there might be another
extension.
Yeah, exactly. Another extension. But if the tariffs do come in place, the economic backlash will be terrible. Not just the reaction is going to be huge, not just in the US. Let's not forget Europe. Let's not forget, there's a lot of...
Oh, it's going to be terrible for American citizens. The global
economy is a global economy for a reason. You can't just do things without consequences. And as soon as there will be consequences, we'll see him change his tune completely.
And Americans will get poorer and Trump and family will get richer by doing crypto deals with the Pakistanis.
Work.
This is so immoral. This is wrong.
In the US,
it's wrong. So, Pastor, don't make it more difficult for the Americans. What Charles, right, Charles? Don't make it more difficult. This is going to eventually be paid by Americans, $2,000 per year more, minimum, if the Indian tariffs go up. Right, Charles? This is going to get expensive for Americans, Charles. You understand that?
It's already going up. 50% tariffs on Brazil. You know what that's going to do to the cost of the coffee that every American has every morning? Huge increase. This is not going to work. And that's why I'm hopeful that there will be a political backlash against a set of Trump policies that are incredibly Make America great again? Why is he destroying the best universities? Why is he defunding basic research? Why is he firing the federal workforce? It makes no sense.
I have 30 seconds each. We'll divide the time. Ajay, your last message to the pastor, who's a little unnerved, a little more silent today, more sedate, I would say.
No, Arnab, overall, if you look at the debt level of the US, it's $37 trillion. The world has invested $15 trillion in America. America pays the world about $100 billion as interest every year. And their interest has gone to $1.2 trillion. It's more than social security payouts. It's more than what they spend on defense, more than what they spend on healthcare.
Yes.
Much more than they spend on education. So it's a country which is having a deficit per year, more than 6% of GDP, running more than $1 trillion of deficit, fiscal deficit every year. But then...
So we need to wrap here. Pastor, I would only say to you, best of luck. You're heading towards turbulent times.
FX reserves, which we place...
the reality of it is this.
They seized $300 billion of the Russian reserves.
If India is our friends, then they would stand with us against the atrocities that the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's another lecture on Ukraine another time. But tonight I'll end with the pictures of Ajit Doval meeting Putin. Big moment there. Things are pivoting very differently and things are changing. As I said, this is a moment of change, not just for India, but around the world. See you tomorrow. Good night and goodbye.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सब जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा